Hello, my friends, and I hope you're having a fantastic day. So, I've been reflecting lately, and I don't really just like reading the entire articles. I'm sure there's some people who enjoy that, but I would like to cut back on that and do a little more of my own thoughts. So, we're going to try something a little different today. You'll have to let me know what you think down in the comments. What we're covering today is Manor Lord's publisher. Now, there's two different articles that they're basically talking about the same thing, and I'm going to look at them both just to see what new information they each give us. The general topic is how big corporate publishers and game devs really don't mix, which is honestly something I firmly believe. The idea that you need this big monster publisher to get your game out there isn't good for gaming. It's not good for gaming. It's not good for gamers. It's not good for developers. While there might be some help that they can provide, especially regarding the consoles perhaps, they are not a necessity. And I think it's nice to be able to hear that, well, basically, I like the confirmation bias of someone repeating the same opinion that I have from within the industry. So in this article by Ollie Jones, Manor Lord publisher says game devs and big corpos don't get on because making games is fundamentally unpredictable. And as we know, big corporations like to be able to predict when their money is coming in. They don't like the ebb and flow that generally happens with products such as games. They want to see it sell steadily. They want to make product, release next product, get money, make new product, release product, get money. While you can to some degree do that with a video game, the fact is, as when you release the game, that is when you're going to see the majority of sales. When it goes on sale, you're going to see more sales. But other than that, outside of those two periods, you're not going to see a lot of income. There's going to be holes. There's going to be times where you have to wait, which is part of why the ballooning budgets in gaming is also dangerous, especially in the corporate sphere. They seem to think the more money you throw at something, the more it's going to be worth. Snow Rui, who I hope that's the way you pronounce the last name, is the CFO at Manor Lord's Publishers Hooded Horse, was one of the many indie publishers to discuss the waves of layoff that have rocked the industry over the past 2 years. A lot of cuts and unrest come from public companies shifting corporate priorities and trying to make themselves look better at the end. I mean, when it comes to running a business, and especially a larger business, you have two different sheets you want to show. You have the sheet that you show investors, which basically pumps up the profit margin, makes it look like you guys are just making money hand over fist. Then you have the sheet that you show the IRS, which is, oh no, we're not making any money. We've lost everything. What the hell? We don't know what's going on here. We're about to go bankrupt, because then you have to pay less taxes. If you can artfully create those two pieces of paper, you will probably be a very successful business person, at least in terms of having a large corporation where people have invested in you. And you would think with video gaming that would actually be reasonably easy to do, since, you're going to have those pockets of money and then you're going to have those pockets of poorness. The problem with large developers is they don't have the patience to allow developers to do what they need to do. We saw this, for example, with Cyberpunk 2077, where they pushed it out the door far too early. Granted, they'd already been working on it far too long. They gave in to the pressure from gamers who, I'm sorry, gamers, sometimes we are our own worst enemy. We do not have, some among us, do not have the patience to allow these people to do what they need to do so that we can get the finished product we want. You can't rush a thing. It's just like baking a cake. If you pull that cake out early, what you're going to have is a soupy mess and no one's going to like it. You have to let it bake till it's done. Now, at the same time, you don't want to let it bake too long, because then it comes out, hard and burnt, and nobody wants that either. There has to be a balance. I remember when I originally covered Manor Lords and its coming out period, where they did say this: we can ignore profits when we should. We're not non-profit or anything, but everyone agrees it's not the only motive. Manor Lords is one of those games that is very interested in developing the game because they love the game. But it's also developed mostly by one person. When you have a smaller team, they tend to be more attached to the projects, and it makes it much better. I mean, one of the bigger problems with these very large AAA games is how many people they have on a game. Sitting there and watching the credits scroll for 15, 20 minutes, sometimes longer, is a portion of the issue because you have to pay each and every one of those people. Then you have to hope when you release the game, you make enough money to pay those people so that they keep having a job and you don't have to lay them off to make things look better. Anna Koselk, who I apologize if I butchered that last name, also covered basically the same thing, except where the creator of Manor Lords, Tim Bender, said, "If I had a game, I would not sign with 90% of publishers. The Manor Lords publisher thinks self-publishing is a fine way to go." And much like anything else right now, the tools to be able to do this are so much easier. When you look at how easy it is for someone to get into something like the Unreal Engine, or how easy it is to release a game on Steam. Think of all the stupid shovelware that is on Steam that's released by somebody who got into Unity, put together some pre-made assets, and then shoved it out on Steam, and people bought it. Self-publishing is definitely an option today. You do not need the multi-million-dollar corporations to get your game out there. Now, if your dream is to be on all the consoles and the PCs immediately right at launch, then yeah, you might need that help. But if you are willing to be patient and show the love that your game requires, you might start on PC. But it'll only be a matter of time if you've developed a good game good enough before you are asked to port it to other systems, because people are going to want to play it, and not everyone plays PC. So in an interview with Pirate Software's Jason Thor Hall, Hooded Horse CEO Tim Bender revealed he'd steer clear of the majority of publishing companies and why he'd do so. "If I had a game, I would not sign with 90% of publishers that exist out there. There are resources that you can learn," Bender said. Hall agreed, saying that he personally thinks the sentiment is correct. And I will say the ability to learn how to do this stuff for yourself is absolutely the most important. For example, if I waited until I could afford to pay somebody to edit my own videos, I wouldn't have a channel. Instead, I've learned how to do most of it myself. Is it always great? No. But you know what? It's better than nothing. I'm having fun doing it. I'm learning a new skill. And hopefully I'm getting better. Hopefully. I do feel like I need to update the intro and outro, but I'm having problems coming up with ideas. If you have an idea, feel free to put it down in the comments. However, Bender continues and offers an alternative to publishers. He says, "Developers, if you're the kind of person that you're willing to go out there and you're willing to start reading and learning and thinking about all these marketing things and trying your best to do on your own, you can get yourself to a state where you're 90% better than 90% of the publishers at doing it, and you won't charge yourself. You'll care a lot more about your game, and in particular, you won't make certain mistakes that I see publishers often make, which is when marketing a game, trying to market it as something else that it isn't quite the game they think fits better into some other popular game." So basically, he's saying that Scorn is a good example of this. It is a fantastic game. Yes, it is kind of a walking simulator because there really is no actual combat in it. You are expected to try to keep back from the enemies and weave your way through in a sneaky way, as opposed to actually shooting. However, when you watched the advertisements for it, it appeared to be a shooter, and a lot of people were very excited for a shooter in that atmosphere of a game. Thus, when it came out and people finally got the opportunity to play it, they were disappointed. Now, I was absolutely thrilled to hear that it was more of a puzzle game than a shooting game, and I love that game. But again, I'm weird, so there's that. The atmosphere is fantastic. It's amazing. But by making that mistake, they may have gotten an initial boost in terms of who was buying it, but then they got a drop-off that was much sharper than it probably should have been, because the people who bought it didn't get what they thought they were getting. When you give someone something that they don't really want, you have a problem. And that's a problem we've been seeing in the game industry across the board when you think about how they advertise games right now. And especially now when they're using mostly anger in an attempt to advertise games. They come out and wave these flags in our face, like a bull, a big rainbow colored flag, for example, to make people angry so that they talk about the game. But the problem is they don't understand that that anger does not then lead to purchases. They seem to think that if they make a certain group of people mad, then the people who identify with what these people are mad at will then run out and buy the game. There's a variety of issues with this, but the best one is that anger doesn't sell the game. Much like paying for shout outs on a YouTube channel doesn't grow a channel unless there is something there people want to enjoy. You can get so far on shout outs, but if you don't have something of substance to offer people when they come, people aren't going to want it. If you make a bunch of people angry at a game, they aren't going to want to play the game because they're angry and they don't want to be angry. They want to relax. They want to enjoy the game. And the people you think you're attracting by making these people mad don't actually want to play the game either because they're more interested in making those other people mad. They're just happy to see those people mad. Now, the people that get mad in this situation also have a tendency to do the same thing in reverse, but that's a separate subject for now. Bender concludes that self-publishing is a fine way to go as long as developer knows what direction to take and are willing to learn. Earlier in the discussion, he said he thinks so many games fail because of bad contracts where publishers insist on making all their money back before the devs get a bite of revenue. So his position on hiring a publisher from a developer's point of view isn't all that surprising. And I wouldn't be shocked to hear in the future that game publishers are becoming more like music agencies where they basically sign these contracts and they take all the benefits and royalties and everything and keep them for themselves and give the actual creators only this small portion of the actual income, leaving them barely hanging on, so they have to keep kind of producing or they lose their income. That happens so often in music, it's frightening. And to see developers potentially strung around along the same way is a little scary. I can't help but think realistically and firmly that self-publishing is the best way to go. Or at the very worst, going with a small publisher. I want to say I've covered Wired Productions a few times, and they actually seem like they might be okay, but I'm not a game developer. I've never had to do a contract with them, so I could be very wrong. I could just be biased because so far they seem to be creating the types of games I would be interested in playing. Thus, I want them to be good people, because that would make buying them so much easier. There's so much involved with gaming that I feel gamers don't think about. And this whole back end of publisher versus developer versus gamer, I really think developers and gamers should be on the same side of this, because what gamers really want is developers to have the freedom to develop what they want so that we can have the games we want. It's a very symbiotic relationship, and I would very much like to figure out how to encourage that kind of thing. I don't know. I wish there was a way. Personally, I do it by finding indie games or at least AA productions as opposed to AAA productions to talk about on the channel, even if nobody does really watch them. But I still think it's important to talk about them because otherwise they don't get out there. While I have you here, I would like to remind everybody that if you would like to support the channel, it is $5 a month to become a member. What you get from that is basically you get the videos as soon as I release them, whatever time I release them. And there are a few bloopers I will put out eventually. And as soon as I can come up with other things, I will make those available as part of the membership. There is only one level of membership at this point in time. And I would like to go ahead and thank those members. We have DX Machina NZ, Emperor Dunze, Mogu, Robust Delirium, Rob Julian, Mr. Drow, Amenti, and You're Wrong. I really appreciate you all so much for being members. If you are someone who doesn't necessarily want to become a member, but you still want to show support in some way, I do have a throne wish list down in the description. I try not to harp on the whole thing just because, no one wants to hear someone talk constantly about, oh, please join my memberships and blah, blah, blah. But I also know if I don't say something every now and then, no one knows it's there. All that said, let me know your thoughts down in the comments. And thank you. Thank you so much for watching this video. I really hope you enjoyed it. Please like, comment, subscribe, and turn on the notifications. If you really liked it, you can feel free to share it around, and I will catch you later.